Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Kogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go.
For Baldur's Gate 3, I have actually really enjoyed the last few streams. Basically, ever since we left Moonrise Tower, I've had a lot more fun because it's cool to explore this open world, run into a bunch of random encounters, combat, NPCs, little mini dungeons, and things like that. And I like how they all tend to tie into each other in some way. Like, for example, 2 streams ago, we ran into this random kid named Oliver who looked like his body was like half corrupted and he was controlling these shadow demons. Like, what the heck is going on here? And then come to find out, last stream, we actually ran into his other half counterpart, Thaniel. That's right, Thaniel, who apparently was a spiritual being that the druids kind of like work with and worship, who had been split, and you had to go basically reunite him with his other half, the Oliver. It was really neat. I liked that. There are certain things about Baldur's Gate 3 I think are done really, really well. There's some things I think are not done so well, and as you know, I've been vocal in my criticism of those things over the course of the playthrough. And the thing is, I have the right to do that. I have the right to criticize any game, and I will. I'm not going to pull punches. I'm not going to hold back when it comes to things that I feel about any particular game that I play. But in regards to Baldur's Gate 3, I am well aware that there is an audience of this game that absolutely love it and think it's like the best game ever made. All right? I beg to differ. I like the game. I'm not in love with it. I think that it has many shortcomings or things that could have been improved. I think a lot of the the situational dialogue is incredibly cringeworthy and written essentially for like immature people. And the way that various things are presented in the game is poor. You know, not really having a proper tutorial for 90% of the gameplay mechanics. So you need to either research or have someone tell you how to play the game. Meh. You know, a lot of these ridiculous relationships that spring up out of nowhere, even though you've done absolutely nothing close or romantic with any of the cast, all of a sudden they want to jump your bones and sleep with you. That's pretty bad. It's pretty cringeworthy writing for, again, people who feel like they've never had a relationship before. And I have the right to criticize this kind of stuff. But there's people out there who disagree, and that's okay. I just wish that everyone out there understood that people can have different opinions of you, and that's okay. Like, if you like that stuff, I'm okay with it. As I've told you guys, I feel like this game, it's its own niche, right? Kind of like FromSoft games. There's people out there who absolutely hate FromSoft games because they feel that they're too difficult, right? But if you take the time to study and learn how these FromSoft game works and how all their mechanics are, they're masterpieces, right? But they're not for everybody. And I kind of feel the same way about Baldur's Gate 3, yet Baldur's Gate 3 overwhelmingly won Game of the Year. Why? We could sit here and argue about this till the cows come home. But in my opinion, it's because basically the game has some of this immature stuff. Like people, oh, wait a minute. Almost a high-level, very complex, very nerdy RPG, you know, D&D, but oh my god, you could sleep with bears? Yeah, and? To me, it's like, what does that matter, right? To me, my focus, honestly, my favorite part of this game is the incredible amount of narrative and content in it. Like some people have said, this game kind of feels like almost the spiritual successor to Witcher 3, where everything you run into is kind of important and meaningful. Now, you can skip a lot of it and it won't really affect the overall course of the game, but if you take your time to do every little piece of stuff you discover, it actually feels very rich and like a very complex world. I completely agree. I'm happy that in the way that I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, that I've been taking my time to do all the content I run into, and I haven't really skipped anything, right? I mean, that's why I'm 70-some hours in, and we're still in Act 2. So, I love that about the game. But why is it that every time you hear someone talk about Baldur's Gate 3, you hear about who is your waifu or husbando in the game, and how many bears did you bang, and you know what I'm saying? It's stupid. Why is the discourse so dumb and immature when the game has so much more than that to offer? I don't know. Anyway, I still like the game, and I'm enjoying it. And like I said, we actually had some really good progress back on Wednesday where we did a bunch of optional questing that seems like it all could have been easily skippable. But man, I'm happy I did it. You know, we rescued Nathaniel and fused him with Oliver. And in addition to that, we actually went to a couple optional dungeons. We found the Shar Temple and did some puzzles and combat in there. It was all good. But now today, as we continue on, we're going back to Last Light, and we're going to go to the second floor of the inn, and apparently that opens up a whole new line of questing, so we'll see where that goes today. But great stuff on Wednesday, okay? And I'll say this too. Thank you to those of you who are tuning into the playthrough and enjoying it still now, because, you know, 70 hours in, a lot of people tend to get tuned out or bored. And I know that there's still a decent group of people following along. Totally not as many as when I started. You know, take a look at the videos from when I started. Each had thousands of views. Now, I could barely pull 300 views after a few days on each video. But I think that's because a lot of people are essentially jumping in, you know, and trying to follow along. And, dude, 70 plus hours of any playthrough takes a long time to get through. I feel like the views will catch up eventually as the viewers catch up, right? So there you go. I just find it's hilarious because now people, of course, in the chat are saying, so you're saying the only reason this game won Game of the Year is because it has sexual content. No, but I'm going to make another comparison. And I challenge you on this one to disprove it. There's a game coming out in a month or two called Stellar Blade. Okay? You know it. It's that action game where it's a lot of flashy combat and a lot of... Oh, wait, no one knows that. All you know is that the main character is this anime chick, right? And if you actually have been listening recently in the last week or two, all the PR about the game is about the main character and how she looks. No exaggeration, even the game developers have come out and admitted, they said, yes, we based that character on a Korean model, and yes, we actually spent arduous hours modeling her ass cheeks so that she would look the most attractive. It's like, yes, because you're selling your game on the sexual content of the main character. You're not selling your game on the game. If Stellar Blade had a main character that was a regular dude with 2 swords, no one would give 2 shits about this game. It would probably have no hype. It would just be another game amongst a million of these kind of games that no one really cares about. But whenever you make a Bayonetta, or you make a Stellar Blade, or you do that, all of a sudden, now everyone talks about it. Why? Because of the sexual content in the game. Period. So, go ahead and try to tell me that the reason people didn't talk about Baldur's Gate 3 as much as they did was the sexual content. I dare you to lie, because that's the truth. Yes, the game is outstanding. Yes, it has a lot of great content. Yes, it's complex and have D&D elements, and that's a unique thing. But the reason people talked about it was the sexual content. Deal with it. Okay, continuing on. That's my opinion, not the truth. All right, and again, you have the right to disagree with me if that's what you feel. But what was the discourse about this game and Stellar Blade now? Just look at the discourse. Wow, look at that amazing combo. Look at that really cool combat engine. Literally no one. Literally no one. It's just a bunch of people mouth drooling over the main character. That's modern gaming at this point, I guess, right? And the thing is, it's not just games. This has happened in every entertainment industry. An entire movie where the only reason people saw the movie was because of the title actor or actress, correct? This has happened countless times. But it's okay to acknowledge it and admit it instead of trying to pretend like the reason that you like something is something that's not there. Right? Well, instead of admitting that, yes, we all just kind of have a weakness for this thing, instead we're going to try to justify it and pretend like it's this or this or this or this or this. Well, here's the thing. Again, then what I want you to do is I want you to take that element out of it. I want you to take all the sexual content out of Baldur's Gate 3. I want you to take it all out of Stellar Blade and tell me that you would like the game as much. Because you'd be lying to yourself. It's the truth. I'm sorry. I'm enjoying the games on face value without that content because that's not what I'm looking for in video games. My opinion on that stuff is different than you, and that's fine. But I just find it absolutely hilarious that when I legitimately criticize something, like when I say, my God, the dialogue of Baldur's Gate 3 when it comes to the relationships and this kind of romance is so cringy. It's so not close to what any human would actually say. It's as if the writers don't even know what people talk like when it comes to romance. Yeah, it's true. And that's a legit criticism of the game. I'm not saying the game's bad, but I have a right to say that. And then people get all uppity about it. Ooh, well, too fucking bad. Too bad. Just because you don't like the fact that someone is exposing something doesn't mean it's not true. That's a hard fact of life as you get older. You realize stuff like this, right? Anyway. So anyway, Eternal Napalm says, you don't think the combat and bosses in Stellar Blade look cool? Again, I didn't say that. What I'm saying is, who's talking about that? Literally no one. All you got to do is go look at the trends on social media and things. No one cares. The only people buying that game, okay, not the only people. A lot of people buying that game will be buying it solely on the fact of the main character's attractiveness. That's it. That's it. And it's time to admit this. As a society, this is where we're going. People fall for this shit. It's a silly trap that people fall for all the time. I mean, hell, let's be honest. The Tomb Raider games, back in the day, they weren't great. Run around, auto-aim, shoot wildly at a bunch of enemies, and then terrible platforming that was incredibly frustrating. The games didn't get good until many iterations later. The first one actually is a really rough game that's very frustrating. I bought it, owned it, and was like, I don't see the hype. But of course, Lara Croft, right? So there you have it. Anyway. Let's continue, shall we? All right, so if you think this is insufferable, then you don't have to watch. I'm a 41-year-old dude, and I'm going to have different takes than the vast majority of people in the gaming industry. That's why people watch me. They're not watching me to hear the same thing you hear every shill say in every other stream or every other piece of content. So if you disagree, it's fine. You can disagree, but don't sit here and criticize and say that my opinions are invalid, because they are. Everyone's opinion is valid, right? Okay. No, I disagree. I think Tomb Raider 1 was not very good. I think Tomb Raider 2 and 3 got much better. Later on, the later iterations actually got bad. But I think 2 and 3 got much better. But 1, man, I still remember it to this day how frustrated I was playing it. And I owned it. And I was frustrated at how annoying parts of it were, because they didn't really put too much... Okay, let me put it this way. It could have definitely been designed better, but you could tell there's certain parts of the game they focused on and certain parts of the games they rushed because they didn't care as much. Anyway.
I got the drip going. 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 It's like a faucet that's dripping. You can't make it stop. So what do you want me to do? Have a mute button that every second I'm tapping the mute button just in case I'm gonna have to clear? Like, this is what I mean. These dumb kids. This is what it is. It's dumb kids.